In the later 90s, a lot of my time and more importantly my money spending went into video games as they were getting super hot around that time and a lot more social. If you weren't playing the games other people were playing, you couldn't really talk and discuss stuff with your friends. There weren't online games, it was just the single experiences. But then Pokemon hit as like one of the most perfect portable games, and then there was a big time multiplayer element. But even with the gaming taking up a lot of my attention, I still kind of had a collector's desire to have kind of physical collectibles or toys of the things that I enjoyed in entertainment. So I did end up getting the actual first ever action figures of Pokemon at the time, alongside playing the game. This is like the first real like action figures. They did them in this style, these tiny little figures. Since there were so many characters at the time, 150, boy, that would have been a lot of figures. Surely they won't have more, anything like that. Certainly looking at the prices of these nowadays, I regret not getting a lot more sets even that I had. But I just want to go through all the ones I did have, just in the different ways and sets that these were released. You have to just think of the time period where Pokemon just exploded like out of nowhere. You kind of had to start getting the game, and then there were so many other things alongside of it. Even the Pokemon cards. I didn't collect or play that at all, but I still had cards. I don't know how I got them, but I never bought any. Just ended up with cards anyway. But nobody plays that anymore. I assume that died down and nobody collects those anymore. I think they lost all their value immediately. So we won't talk about that. We'll talk about these very popular action figures instead. So I got one on the card here just so we could get an example, and I could get one more set of characters I didn't have as a kid here. Got Clefairy and Clefable because it was the cheapest one I could get. But I didn't have them, so we can kind of check out the carding, where these kind of came in half bubble of a Pokeball. Actually a Master Ball, weirdly. They all came with like a Master Ball, this battle figure set style, instead of just normal Pokeball, which I thought was kind of weird. I could see certain sets of like more rare Pokemon coming in one, but everything had a Master Ball. I mean, it was cool and clear, and you could keep them in there. It was pretty awesome. I just thought it'd be cool to have different balls, you know, the regular, have a few in great balls and ultra balls and stuff, maybe just depending on how evolved the Pokemon were. And then they came with these little disc things that was supposed to be some sort of game. You can kind of see Clefairy has a 2-star, and Clefable has 3, like they kind of had levels. And there was some sort of game. You can see the rules on the back. They were trying to push this as a separate game because they didn't quite understand what Pokemon was there. Did people like the characters, or they like playing all these games attached to it? Video games, card games. So it was a little bit like some kind of reverse Pog situation where you'd shake them up in the ball and slap them down, see which sides they ended up as. Obviously, which Pokemon you pick is going to determine that, but that's how the game worked in any situation anyway. But on the back of the card, just like the cartoon kind of images, like from the guidebooks and instruction books and stuff like that. Not even pictures of the actual toys, just the characters. So you had to go to the stores and get to see the real ones, see what the real toy looked like in 3 dimensions too, because typically you were just seeing the video game sprites. You didn't get to really see them in 3D until you kind of saw the cartoon kind of animate them from different angles, or getting the Pokemon Stadium game, which was a massive deal. At the time, not even like its own adventure game or anything. Just getting to see 3D graphical representations of the Pokemon. And I thought it was amazing technology at the time to have the Game Boy cartridge that you could connect to your Nintendo 64 console. You were like combining video games together to do stuff. I mean, that feature in itself was pretty awesome, and the one they never used a lot past this, but this was like the perfect way to use it. So these figures kind of got to predate the Pokemon Stadium kind of fun of the 3D aspect. Got to see them. So let's see which sets I already had as a kid here. Of course, Pikachu. If you couldn't walk away without a Pikachu. Even all the figure sets now, they come with like as many Pikachus as possible. But I like the super chubby fat one. This is like very old school style Pikachu. You see the body's just as thick as the head. And I kind of went a little special there with the tail piece. Kind of separate there. I mean, they flung these on the shelves quick as possible. It still has like Japanese writing on the mold. And then even the TOMY logo still on there, even though these were released under Hasbro in the United States and probably some other countries too, outside of Japan, where they started out, of course. So a lot of the ones I got were these battle figure sets, which was just like a 2 set with that clear ball. But my 3 Pikachus here was like a 3-pack, and it was called the Ball Buster. Wait, no, that's not the right name. They were Ball Blasters. Little 3-pack, and that came with this Game Boy toy thing, which is really cool. I only ever got this clear purple one, but that's just like my Game Boy that I had, so it made sense to me. But it's kind of the old ball and string kind of thing here. We can see, again, the Master Ball motif being used more than the regular Pokeball for some reason. Bat Poke! The big button on the front. This had a little compartment, and you could keep those Pog-like discs there, so you could still play that game. It was still advertising that game on the back of the packaging. With this thing, it was a little bit of a mini game that you would just try to knock down the Pokemon with the launcher here. Just a simple little like button launch mechanism. Pop that in there. You can shoot it on out. Good way to mark up all your figures here. But we can try to shoot one. Man, that's strong. It knocks even Pikachu gets knocked over. Definitely one that tries to favor the thicker shaped ones. But just a cool, like, you know, referencing the Game Boy, that it was a Game Boy game. Get kind of a little fun toy on the side while getting the figures, so it was always cool to get those. And they were 3-packs. So Pikachu gets his own. He's got some different one. We saw the cool like victory posing one there with the 2 fingers up. There's this like taller inquisitive one that maybe is a little thinner kind of looking, but he's like standing up really tall, like looking like, huh? Tiny little hands there. This one I didn't think looked as cool as the thicker one because of this weird shape. And then like a weird one like he's getting hurt or something, like, or maybe he's just performing like a really big like thunder attack or something like that. But he doesn't look happy either way. He's either struggling or he's getting beat up by the other Pokemon here. Pretty weird poses. There isn't one where he's like on all 4s for some reason. Would have been a cooler one, like an attack mode one. So because it was a 3-pack, it was pretty nice for getting the starters where you could get all 3 evolutions. So I had like the Squirtle one, and we can see here, here's like the flaw of these as collectible figures, is that every figure is basically the same size. So even like the first evolution that's very small, I mean, they're very fitting for that, and they work probably the best because they're like the biggest, most volume, because the body scaling and stuff for this like makes more sense for this size. So you can see how big and full Squirtle looks like, because he's kind of a smaller Pokemon, just like Pikachu really like takes up a lot of the volume of these like very small size figures. And even Wartortle looks pretty good, but then the scale, you know, starts to be odd. We got the tail piece. Middle evolutions really get like lost in the shuffle. So I always kind of like the extra cups in the Pokemon Stadium game that let you use like mid-level Pokemon so they could still have a place. Yeah, I guess I could need to wash these up. Probably been in and out of some boxes as I moved about. But here again, it's the larger Pokemon with like Blastoise. Everything's there, he looks good, but it's just like smaller scale. And you'll see a lot more like the later humanoid kind of shaped Pokemon are very small and thin and don't take up like the volume like the smaller evolutions do. So if there's one flaw there, they didn't do like bigger size for the bigger Pokemon. They just said, no, we're not going to mess around with that. We're just going to do one size fits all. And it works just for like a collection like this where I have them all, you know, like the shape is there that you can see and remember those designs and stuff. Even if they did make them slightly bigger, there'd still be discrepancies. You'd be like, well, no, it should be bigger or smaller than this one. So I think they were just probably making the best choice they could. Just say, they're all the same size. We're not going to mess around with, you know, too tiny of small evolutions or too big of later evolution Pokemon sizes and stuff. They came with a Ball Blaster too. Naturally, we get the Charmander line there. Surprisingly not sold out, even with a Charizard included there. Would have been highly sought after, but again, you can just see the sizing, how Charmander really like takes up this size really well and looks really awesome. It's kind of interesting to see their color choices more, because in the game you wouldn't have seen too much color. So it's kind of neat to see like the shading, like you get the Charmeleon with a very darker red, so that made him look pretty awesome too. Looking freaking good there. But then you have a Charizard that should be really big, but again, all his detail is here. He's in like a cool roar pose. That's the only other thing too, is there's not articulation with these. They're just like solid little figures. But the idea was the number of them that you were getting, that you were going to get like a big group of them and have all kinds of battles and play, or like me kind of just displaying them even at the time, since I was kind of too busy playing the video game, but I still wanted to have like all the little figures and stuff. But then you get the tiny arms compared to like the thicker arm of Charmander, just because the scale, once they're reduced down, they like are thicker. And then here the bigger size like stuck in this window. It's like square shape that they all kind of fit inside of and got molded out of. It says thinner pieces and stuff to display a larger character. Yep. Naturally, another 3-pack, the Bulbasaur line, but I seem to be missing Venusaur, but it must have been the 3-pack because I have his little game disc thing here with his name and everything. So I might have to hunt down that again if I lost him somewhere, or if I just have to buy another one so I can have the 3, because the starter lines are really like a big deal, because when you play through the game you get to see the full evolutionary lineup. And a lot of people, especially if you got Pokemon Stadium, you could restart your game. You could put all your Pokemon and all your items on the Nintendo 64 cartridge, especially like TMs and like expensive items like gold nuggets and rare candy and stuff. And especially all the Pokemon you caught, you just keep them all on there. Restart your Game Boy game and you could pick a new starter and play through the game again. So I always loved playing through the game, and then I could get a chance to pick one of the other starters that I didn't have. So the starters were a pretty big deal there. Little Bulbasaur, again, looking pretty good. Except for the, I have to find somewhere to print like the copyright info, and that's like right on his chin there. Same for old Ivysaur. Who would have thought he'd get to be in Smash Brothers later? A little extra popularity there. But again, really wish I would have had all 3 of them just to show all the starters, because they're so important and memorable. But I just have this crappy Pog for Venusaur, dang it. But then you can see the game, you know, with the 3, or it lands on there and it's only worth 2, like kind of like a weakness kind of thing. 219 pounds, a Venusaur. Heavy boy. So I have one of these little things that's like sealed that came with these toys. Left this one sealed. I don't know. I probably have open ones, but I don't know where they are. I just saved the sealed one along with my stuff, so I don't think this is going to show the toys. I think this is just kind of like a mini poster of all the Pokemon numbers and stuff. Oh, it's like 2-sided, so it is like everybody. All the way to 150. Yes, sir, there was only 150 Pokemon back then, and no more at all, no matter what you say or think. But this is like a cool little handy guide at the time, you know, just to have them all. Even though it's 2-sided, you know, you couldn't like hang it up. I think I did have a poster where it was all of them, just because it was kind of handy to look at for a quick guide. Would like to get all the figures of this, but judging by the prices, I don't know. Maybe if I just hunt them down as just the loose figures, I might be able to get them all. Couldn't catch them all, you know? Especially, you couldn't afford them all, you know? You had to make choices, you know? You're just a kid back then. You want to kind of save any money you had or opportunities to get gifts and things like for the games, so I was pretty limited on the figure stuff. Wish I would have got more, because again they ended up being the first ever figure, so they're pretty popular here since Pokemon has stayed popular all this time and is one of like the biggest multimedia whatever you call them to this day. So no guide about like the disc game or whatever, that's just on the back of the package. Just comes with a little poster. One of my favorite Pokemon there, Meowth. Of course, seeing him a lot in like the cartoons at the time that I kind of half watched, but I was just more about the game more than the show, other than kind of tuning in once in a while just to see the battles and animations and stuff. But just because I like cats and stuff, Meowth was really cool. The one I really wish I could get a Persian, which would be really awesome. But Meowth was really cool design just as himself. This awesome coin. I'll hit you with payday! Bang! Always loved having a lot of money in the games. I think he was in like a 2-pack with this Gengar, if I remember correctly. He's kind of like translucent. It's pretty awesome effect there. I don't know if they made the rest of the ghosts, because it just jumped right to Gengar in an early pack, instead of maybe doing Meowth and Ghastly. But pretty sweet there. I wonder if later releases they just did solid instead of this clear effect. So, pretty special one. A big contender in the game at the time, because it's the only fully evolved ghost. Right, some of these I don't know what pack they came in. We got Seal. I think this is like fully evolved like Pidgeot. I don't think I have like Pidgey and Pidgeotto anywhere. Got a Growlithe, but no Arcanine. So I have a few loose end evolutionary strings here that I'd like to maybe get the missing pieces of. That's generally what I do here, is kind of like go over the stuff I had as a kid and then maybe get stuff that I was missing or always wanted. Usually I wait until I do that to make a video, but here I just wanted to go through all these and then maybe we can do another video later if I finish my 151. Oh no, wait. Spoiler. So I had an Eevee somewhere amongst all these packs too. But none of the evolutions, unfortunately. I was probably looking for him because I know I liked pretty much all of them, especially Vaporeon. Anyway, here's a Staryu, no Starmie. I always like this that had like the gold piece and there's like one wraparound of the leg, like attaching it. It's really weird. But this one, he's got like a stand, you know, just because it's like some of them, the shape was just a little too crazy. Couldn't quite stand up on their own. Like here's Gyarados, which honestly I always want Magikarp for these. That was like one of my favorite Pokemon. It's so funny. I remember training a level 100 Magikarp just because it was so funny to me. I'd even make like little animations and stuff with Magikarp just because he was like my favorite joke. I think I did end up buying the one because I was like, that name sounds so cool and special and I have enough money. And then getting it and going like, God dang it, I got hosed by this worthless fish. I never really liked Gyarados' like model in the Pokemon Stadium games. He was very like stiff, like exactly in this pose. In the mouth, like didn't move very much. Kind of a letdown. He's almost like a special effect, like tokusatsu suit monster in there because he was so stiff in his movement. Like, what was the deal with that? But he came in a pack, probably with a Staryu, if I'm guessing. I'm just like trying to go by memory. You can look up all these packs. There's like guides and stuff. I might use that to hunt down which ones I'm missing here. But we got Spearow and Fearow. Why? I don't know. I don't... I actually do like Fearow a lot because the drill pack. Just as a flying one. Really awesome flying move. But when you're playing the game, you just need fly to get around. Look at that chicken. Again, you can see where it's like how thick and full like the Spearow is versus the thinner Fearow. Just because the scale, you know, the way they are. We got a freaking sweet Dragonite here. And one of my secret favorites early on, Nidoking. It was just kind of cool. I always liked his shape, and then he had so much potential for moves and stuff. Before I really knew the game too well, that, you know, giving him flamethrower and stuff was not all that effective stat-wise. With the types and the special and this and that business. But he's still one of my top faves, even now. So I got the figure of him. Some of those more random ones must have been in those movie packs that were like bigger packs even still with like 5 characters in there. That's pretty cool. I can't figure out where I got a Raichu exactly. I don't see him in a multi-pack thing. Oh, a 3-pack ball blaster with the Eevee and the Pidgeot. We had the Raichu there. But then you can just see like how much thicker because of the scale and size. But I still wanted to get the Raichu there. That was a cool one to get. Looks like it came with a yellow Game Boy, but I don't have that anymore, so I don't know if I traded that away since I had so many of those ball blaster things, or if they broke or something like that. Interesting. Alakazam must have been one of those crazy movie packs, just like a variety of different Pokemon. Instead of, it would have been more smart and efficient to get like evolution sets, you know, 2 packs, 3 packs, so you could get Abra and Alakazam along with Kadabra. But again, you see with the scale, he has like super skinny arms and stuff because he's a bigger Pokemon. He's got the spoons there. Pretty awesome. One of the more powerful ones of the early days for sure. What is this thing? This is not a Pokemon. This is not canon. This was never in that first Game Boy game at all. I don't know what this thing is. Ooh, no. This is not real. Again, like, it's just so fast that, I mean, once they had like the movie and stuff, they jumped right into the next set of Pokemon so early. So it's just really cool, like the magical time when there was only the 151 originals before Meryl and Togepi and like previews early of the next batch of Pokemon started showing up right away in the figures even. So the only non-red blue one I ended up with was a big fat Togepi. Go figure. Really promoted the egg idea like a lot. Oh, we didn't do Jigglypuff and Wigglytuff. I was always more of a Clefairy, Clefable guy back then, but never found the figures, I guess. Just ended up with old Jigglypuff. Jigglypuff's another one that we always found funny for some reason too. So in that early Smash Bros. Game on Nintendo 64, a little extra popularity from getting to be playable in that one. We'll have to open up the Clefairy Clefable pack here. I ain't gonna keep that in the box. I gotta open up and add them to my collection here. So just for a little nostalgia reliving, I like to rip open like a package if I can of figures I show off here. This one's not worth that much. Like a lot of these sets actually are. We can get away kind of opening one up fresh. Just as a little example and just to add these to my collection. Popping right off, the ball was just in the back there. And then there's a little pocket that has the characters inside. Little dome there. Got the little fresh battle discs. And a nice, shiny, clean Master Ball. So it is cool to kind of open one of these up and get like perfect quality stuff. That's why people keep them in the package. Of course, a lot of people collect on card and stuff, but also stupid people like me will open them up. We got Clefairy. Got the stamp there. It's like the first like really rare Pokemon you could find like in the cave. I guess maybe Pikachu is kind of the first rare-ish one to find, you know, in the forest. I think pretty low percentage for Clefairy, and I think a lot of the characters in the game were like talking about it, like hyping it up that it was around that area for you. So I think I had the strategy guide that was like, it's there, so I remember like painstakingly trying to find one and catching it. I think I did use it a lot because I remember distinctly having a Bubble Beam Clefable for some reason. Used my TM from the second gym, just kept that move on it. A little bit bigger Clefable there, bigger wings and stuff. Not a huge difference in the evolution of this one though, like Jigglypuff, Wigglytuff kind of combination. And I wish I would have done more with the idea of like it being the opposite of Gengar or something because they have such similar like body shape. But then we have one of those sealed packs again of the poster. So now I have another sealed one I can put away, and since I have one open now. Two more. I don't know if my dream of 151 is going to happen, but there's +2. Well, here's a good set. We got Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan. Again, here's like the more humanoid ones again, where you have very thin arms and legs and stuff. Hitmonchan, not staying standing very well on this for some reason. And then here you can see because of Hitmonlee's pose, he's got like a little stand kind of thing going on there too. For me, I was a Hitmonchan guy. But again, it's because of those moves. You know, Nidoking, Clefable, Hitmonchan with the different punches, Fire Punch, Thunder Punch, Ice Punch. Kind of cooler than the weirdly inconsistent high jump kicks and crazy fighting moves of Hitmonlee. But I like his design and stuff, and that he has so many unique moves. It was really cool. But I'm a Hitmonchan man myself. Maybe I should assemble my team at the end here out of these, all my favorites in a team. So I'm very grateful I've had the smarts to get the legendary birds as one of those Pokeblaster like 3-packs. We got Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres. But again, they're kind of dwarfed in scale here, so they seem smaller here. Really, they'd be like really big and awesome looking. But one that goes for like pretty pricey. So glad I got a hold of that one. I don't have to hunt those down. Obviously, the legendary Pokemon early on got super popular and famous just because there was not that many to choose from. I always wanted to use Moltres more just because he looked cool, but there was just better fire options even back then, and then quickly after that there was just better ones. But Articuno pretty unique too with the ice flying at the time. I think people quickly realized how awesome Zapdos was with the electric and then the flying that helped kind of neglect the ground weakness. And again, that drill peck, that's one of my favorite moves. The legendary birds. So in that movie pack, of course, since the first movie was all about Mewtwo, he's still in my Master Ball here. Whoosh, he's coming out. Again, he kind of suffers from this scale because he's just kind of weird and small compared to like the smaller evolution ones. It's like, dang, what the heck? But truly epic mythos from just the game, like early on there and even now, that there was like the hidden Pokemon you had to beat the whole game before you can even go get it. The really awesome boss fight on Pokemon Stadium, although that might have been the second one, but he was pretty freaking awesome. Freaking Mewtwo, the last Pokemon, there's no more. But wait a minute, with the movie pack, the other one, of course, featuring Mew, that had even more secret aura since you couldn't get it in the game, or so we thought, at least at the time. But Mew much more suited for this size and scale. You can see how like much bigger Mew looks. But that was really fun getting to load up my old game and do the kind of trick where you can actually catch Mew in the game doing different like the fly glitches and stuff. If I only knew that as a kid, I would have been the absolute king of the early gamers at school. How to get the Mew, like the most convoluted like messing around. But it was awesome getting to do that, and then I could go through and I actually get to catch all the Pokemon. So I have a full dex of 151 on my cartridge of Pokemon Blue that I played even as a kid. So I've got a fresh battery and everything, and got to play through and really beat the crap out of the game, catch all the Pokemon. Even freaking Mew. Got you. I did catch them all. Now I just wish I could catch all the figures here, because it'd be really awesome to have a full display of the 151 for me, because that was like the hottest time for like Pokemon just starting out, and played it so much, getting so familiar with them. Just quickly snowballed into so many Pokemon I kind of like couldn't quite know them all and couldn't really spend the time playing them enough. Played a lot of Gold and Silver. And then the Game Boy Advance ones quite a bit. Got into the real training, like the EV training and stuff. But as they went on, just getting to play it less and less, and knowing less and less of the Pokemon, unfortunately. Just because really when you're younger and have that time to put in, that's the time period that really sticks with you. So the original 151 will always kind of live in absolute fame and known by everybody, even newer players of the game. That's what I really like to collect, is like the old toys of my time period. All through the 90s here. Pokemon definitely a later 90s thing, off into the year 2000 and on. But still in that bubble of 90s there. And this is like the first ever figures. There's tons of collectibles now, but at the time it was these, and that's what I really like, is collecting stuff from the time period that it really started. For me, so something like Star Wars, you know, I was more the 90s kid, so I didn't have the 70s old action figures. I had the 90s action figures, so that's what I like to show and talk about here. That's what I display in my room, or my 90s stuff. A lot of stuff that's the first, like these Pokemon ones, or just the 90s versions of a lot of things. So if that's what you're interested in, this is where you want to stick around here. That way I'll get to see you in the next video.